Today we're going to talk about 5 ways to reconnect with your estranged children. Estranged children meaning children who are not talking to you or giving you very few words, very few physical interactions, and not reaching out as much as you would like. My name is Daniel. I have a mechanical engineering degree. I work as a software engineer, and I grew up in and out of foster care.
And my name is Caitlin, and I have a psychology degree. I'm also a health and fitness coach. I also have a challenging relationship with my parents. I do try to work on that relationship consistently.
It's very heavy. We see the tears, we see the emotions, we hear it all on a weekly basis, and we want to make these videos to help other people out there who are going through what we're going through, whether it's children who are deciding how much to talk to their parents or parents who need to know what's going on with their children and what can they do better. So if you fit in that category, you've come to the right place, and we're going to kick it off with step 1. What is one thing you can do as an estranged parent to start to make progress towards interacting more frequently with your child?
Step one is to identify the issue that caused the estrangement.
Yes, this is the foundation to starting the healing journey that you're likely desiring to go on since you're listening to us talk about it. If you don't know where you crossed the line, what exactly you did that really frustrated your child and made them make the decision to go no contact with you, you're going to have a hard time having any progress whatsoever, right? So you really need to think back to a previous argument or a conversation or maybe an email or a letter or something you heard in the past that really stood out as a frustration point. And we all know nobody knows their children like their parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You likely know, but you just need to sit and think and try to, for a moment, put yourself in their shoes and understand what could make them want to treat you this way. Even if you don't agree with the reason is still valid to younger people.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people claim of, their parents saying, well, that didn't happen, or, maybe they have a trauma and the parent is saying that never happened, and they don't want to believe it because it's so hard as a parent to believe that. And I understand that, but you also have to see how traumatizing that is to your child when you're telling them that you don't believe them. So it's like, maybe that is the reason, something that you're not admitting within yourself. So just an example.
And if you have a low contact child, a child that's not reaching out to you that much, but they still welcome you to talk to them, I would say ask that child what you can do better. So that is something my mom could do.
Yeah.
And
I've told my parents what they could do better. I don't think they always hear me. And that's the tip here, is to really try to find that thing and listen and not brush over it. But they probably are telling you if you are talking to them still.
Yeah. You're lucky if you have a low contact child who you can ask, but you have to have an open mind and an open heart and be willing to take a bit of criticism because it's going to happen. It's going to be there. And it's the only way that you can move on to having a better relationship.
Yeah.
So that's step 1, is to identify the reason. So what is step 2? What is something else that they can do to have a better relationship with their child?
Right. Step 2 is decide that you're ready to make change and do things differently this time.
Yeah. You want to look at the issue that you've identified in step 1, and you need to decide, is that something that I'm really willing to tackle? There are plenty of issues and plenty of people for which they don't want to make change on that. It could be, difference in religion or something along those lines. Or maybe you just believe that this interpersonal relationship that you have with your child is just something that you don't want to address because you believe you're in the right and you're willing to die on that hill. Just know you will probably die on that hill. You will go out not having the relationship that you wanted. If you are estranged, you're estranged for a reason, and you need to decide that you want to fix that reason.
Yeah, I think that having the relationship has to be priority number 1 for you if you're willing to move forward within the process and make this decision. I mean, even if there is a religious difference, that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to change your religion or your child, but it is being able to put that aside. I mean, do you have any examples for that?
I mean, you've met my mother. I don't mind that my mother's religious. However, I don't want her screaming at me that I'm going to go to hell while we're eating dinner, around our son. It's not fun for me. It's not cool. And maybe if I am going to hell, it's just not always the topic of discussion that we should have. And sometimes it's great for people to have their religion, but sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to obviously be the way that she would ever convince you to be religious in the first
Yeah,
place. You
no.
know, I mean, you have to build a relationship with somebody and build rapport and trust. And, that's something that she's bypassing and, kind of just, like you said, being inappropriate over conversations that shouldn't be had like that. So,
Yeah, and I mean, and it's a great example, and there's
mhm,
plenty of other
mhm,
examples. Let's say I don't talk to my father or something like that because he drinks too much alcohol.
mhm,
If you're not willing to address that issue, address your alcoholism, if that's the problem and you're not there yet with it, you just need to be honest. You should close this video.
yeah,
We won't be able to help you,
yeah,
and you should move on with your life. But you have to understand that time's running out. There's it's flying by.
yeah,
The grandbabies, they start walking and talking and running and playing and interacting and going to school so quickly.
yeah,
And so it's time for you to make that decision right now. I'm willing to address the issue that I think fits in the step number one,
mhm,
and I'm ready for that change.
yeah.
And so that brings us to step three. What do I do after I decide I'm ready and I want to continue with your process? What's next? What do we do next?
Right. Step three is to reach out to an outside party and ask for their perspective on the issue that you've identified in step one. So you don't want to go to somebody too close to you, like your husband or your wife, or somebody really close in the family. You want to go to a trusted third party that's going to be able to give you some real valuable insight and advice to what you are struggling with and what you think is the reason why you and your child are estranged. If you don't have anybody that comes to mind at all that you can think of talking to and trust with this task, then maybe hiring a therapist would be a very helpful thing here. Or maybe if you just value confidentiality to the high degree, go for the therapist. There are, I know we can get one through our insurance. Sometimes they're expensive. Sometimes you can kind of
Yeah.
do different.
If you can't afford therapy,
Yeah.
there's plenty of people in communities. Even if you just walk, if you're religious, you can go to a random religious institution and maybe talk
Or a
to somebody.
pastor.
You can find that's exactly what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
can find a pastor. If you are religious and you're interested in that, you can also make friends
Mhm.
and try to make a friend and talk to that friend and have a friend that you can find in. Maybe it could be an internet friend or a pen pal. Find somebody that you trust that can give you an impartial perspective. So
Yeah.
the reason why we say this is because I know for certain that if my dad were to share how he treated me and my brothers to somebody in our church when I was younger, or to just somebody who passed him by on the street, if he had just talked to anybody about his philosophy on parenting and the way that he treated us, a majority of people would have raised a red flag for him. They would have said, hey, you should be careful. You should love those boys a little bit more and be less physically daunting to them. Okay, we've reached out to somebody and now we're starting to get a stronger perspective. Our mind has been expanded. We're willing to change. We know the issue that we're working on. What is a fourth step that we can do to now start to work harder and start to make moves to where I'm rebuilding that connection with my child potentially?
Step four is to identify and eliminate the vices or distractions that were keeping you content while the relationship with your child was deteriorating.
Yeah, there's a reason why these relationships get so bad. And I think for a lot of people, they have a lot of vices that just allow them to be content as their relationships are deteriorating around them. And in our country, America, there's a lot of vices. You have online shopping, you have NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, we have smoking, we have gambling, we have online shopping, we have all sorts of things. Reality TV, Netflix, Hulu,
Your
Instagram,
phone,
social
yeah.
media, Snapchat. The list goes on and on of things that you can do
To distract.
to distract you when you feel bad. You can go to the store and get a pint of ice cream and you can sit in your room and eat it while you're watching the newest series of whatever the hell just came out.
Mhm.
So there's so many things that distract you from actually thinking about that relationship that you're losing,
Mhm.
reflecting on yourself
Yeah.
and the choices that you made and the things that you've done. There's so much. So what you have to do if you actually want to start to change yourself and you want to come across as a changed person to your child and start to take those steps towards a better relationship is you have to start to push those vices out of your life.
Yeah.
If you're able to let your relationship with your child deteriorate
Mhm.
because other things are entertaining to you,
Yeah.
well, guess what? I've got some bad news for you. It's going to be really hard to fix your relationship because those things are still going to be there, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really hard step, but I think that there's two things that come out of it, and probably many more. I mean, one is that you're, doing something that is distracting you from just living your life, probably in general, and is really hurting, you being able to be the person that you should be to those around you. And two, I think this is probably going to be something your child is really going to be looking out for, because I mean, I notice when my parents have these types of distractions. I mean, I'm sure you noticed it with your family. Do you have examples?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a great example.
Yeah.
A really great one that I think about to this day.
Mm-hmm.
My dad physically abused me and my brothers when we were a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to him for a decade or more,
Mm-hmm.
a very long time.
Yeah.
One Christmas, I decided to go see my mother, and she happened to have my biological father over at her house. Like I said, I hadn't seen this guy in a very long time. I hadn't talked to him. I really had moved on and decided I was okay with never talking to the guy. And I haven't talked to him since. He just happened to be there at that time, and I wasn't going to run away from the situation. So I walked in her house. I sat in the kitchen. The guy was watching NFL. Barely acknowledged me when I walked in. His first question to me, when he decided to talk to me, after a decade of not talking to me, was, do you like football? And what is your favorite team?
Yeah.
Now, I've seen this man in court as his parental rights were being taken away. There's so many things that we could have talked about our situation. The day I ran away from home. There's so many questions that I would have if I had ever put my son in that situation.
Yeah.
And
I'm
the
sure
first thing he wanted to say was,
yeah,
what is your football?
I'm sure that I'm not sure, but I'm sure that a lot of people that do that are maybe trying to just connect, and that is their way of not being heavy at first. But to the child, it comes off very different.
To give him credit, he's probably trying to break the ice.
Yeah.
But
still, to the child who has been in this situation, is so heavy. And I think that sometimes these distractions that in these vices, they allow for you to not sit in that pain. But the thing is your child is sitting in that pain. And so when they see you distracted and not sitting in the pain of really, if you were, you'd probably be acknowledging things a lot more and really trying to make these changes. But you're comforting yourself and pulling the blanket up over your shoulders and getting comfortable with not making the change.
Exactly. It was more comfortable for him. Football is what he knows. It's probably what he spent most of his time doing while I was in foster care and while I was going through college and everything. And so because he had that vice, it takes up a large portion of his brain. And that portion should have been used to better decide something to talk to me about. Yeah.
I think that identifying, and I had said in step 4, eliminating, but, even if I think it's bringing it down a lot, maybe if it's not eliminating, it's just really reducing significantly, and to the point where it's no longer taking over your life, taking over that space, and, fully comforting / distracting, and something that your child would also see as taking over your life.
Yeah. Actually, your child has different relationship with those behaviors. I remember my dad not parenting me because he was drinking beer and watching football. So for the first thing to see him doing after 10 years or so is watching football. I'm like, all right, this guy hasn't changed an ounce. So I'm not going to let myself get comfortable around somebody who hits children. That's just not going to happen. I don't trust this person anymore. And it's just something little like that.
It's like triggering.
Yeah,
he was doing that same thing.
There's tons of people right now that want to call us snowflakes, that want to make fun of us for even using words like triggering and call us losers or whatever you want to call us. But it's not helping you get closer with your child. Feel free to leave it in the comments all you want. Just giving you advice. That's all. You can take it or leave it. Try to skip the step if you want to. Your child's going to pick up on something that reminds them of the bad times. And it's going to make it harder for you to do what our ultimate goal is, which is to reconnect. Yeah. And you need big change. You need big change if you want to have a better relationship. With that being said, let's go to our final step. Step number 5. What can you do to start to have a better relationship with your child today?
Our final step number 5, is to decide that you want to make the change for yourself.
You have to decide that you want to change just because you want to change yourself. Because the cards played out in such a way that you couldn't maintain a relationship with your child. You created a child, you parented a child, and then you lost a relationship with that child. That means there's a lot of work that you can do on yourself. And you never want to end up in a place where you can possibly repeat this process of becoming estranged from a loved one, a future partner, a future child, because it's extremely painful. And we understand that. Trust me, I definitely understand that it's painful to lose somebody that you love in your life. So you have to decide that you want to change for you.
Understanding that you ultimately are doing all of these steps because you know in your heart that this is what you should do to hopefully get this relationship back with your child. This is going to give you the best shot possible to be back in good graces with your child, making a relationship, show them that you really want to change, that you heard everything that they said, that you're actually putting the steps in place, and waiting until you have actually gone through this process to try to reconnect with them, I think is also a really important note here. Like, you don't want to come to them while you're on step 3 and say that you're, really trying to make things right. You don't want to get their hopes up. You want to really do this whole process for yourself. Because I think, they could come to their kid and say, well, I'm doing all these steps trying to,
Yeah.
or maybe they don't call it steps, but they're like, I'm trying to fix myself so that we can get back in a relationship. And you might come off as entitled. Like, I expect if I put the work in that we're just going to have this relationship now. And that's just not necessarily the right way to go about it. You need to go about it because it's the right thing to do.
If you do this process for you and you give it some time and you really work on this, your child will naturally just see the change in you. And that's what you want. You don't want to go to your child saying, well, did you notice I do this differently now? Did you notice I haven't watched a football game in 10 weeks? Do you love me now?
Yeah.
Did you notice that we haven't argued so much? Am I doing a great job? Because all of that comes across as just incredibly immature.
Yeah.
What you want to do is you just want to, as our generation calls it, glow up. I know it's corny. What you want to do is you want the change to be, you want it to radiate off of you.
Change if it's, if your advice is, something along the lines of overeating or, always talking about football, like that comes off immediately. And then the child is going to be like, well, what else have they changed? Maybe have they changed in a way that I've been wanting them to change all of these years, and so I think that I really like step number 4 for that reason, because you are really kind of displaying that you're committed to putting your relationship with them first, putting your self-growth first, and actually just, being a great person and willing to have a better relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can wrap it up with this. I think that you should aspire to be the person that you want your child to become. And when you change for you, you are setting that standard. And you have to change for you because I can't tell you how to be. So if you're changing for me, my younger, undeveloped perspective, well, when I was 5, I may have wanted you to be a fireman, right? When I was 15, I may have wanted you to be a multimillionaire so I could have the nicest car at school. My perspective is not as valuable as the wisdom that you bring to the table. So you have to decide to change for you and decide to take your role back as a parent. But the only way you can do that when you're in these low contact relationships is to really follow these steps that we're laying out and to look for more information and to decide to grow.
Yeah. I think you'll be more at peace from within if you do try to embrace a journey of reconnection with your child in a healthy way.
Absolutely. Thanks. I feel like this was a great conversation.
Yeah, I think it was.
Nice job. You rock.
We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.